James Jones. His accent tells me that he hails from Seattle, but he does not want to talk about it. From what I gathered, James rode with several biker gangs before coming to Coastal. What brought him here, we may never know. It's possible that James came to Michigan and Coastal to run away from some dark past he left out west. He has a good heart. The other rats look up to him, and he looks out for them. Not feared, but respected by all. Oh, the Old Barrow, western outskirts of the city, filled with mines, refineries, and factories. It's not safe or pretty. Perfect place for the pack of steel rats to build their nest in. From what I understand, they took an abandoned mine, cave or something, and repurposed it into their safe house. And of course, they called it the Rat's Nest.
Welcome to the Coastal City Chronicle. In 1940, our beautiful city, a child of a genius mind and the industrial drive of everyday Americans, was justly chosen as the city of the future. Today, we enter a new age of prosperity and ingenuity with rightful pride as our automated factories work day and night, and our sky is filled with an ecological dirigible transport network of unprecedented complexity. The future is now. This message was brought to you by the CSRB radio station, a coastal voice in your house.
Randall Kaiser. Where to start? He's from Germany, but that's obvious. He says he came to the USA a few years ago as a stunt artist in a moto circus. After the circus came to Michigan, they of course had to put on a show in Coastal City. That's how he met Toshi, James, and Lisa. He decided to stay. I think he's still trying to get his green card. Let's hope that comes through soon. After what happened that night, everyone in America thinks this crazy kid is a hero. I don't know much about the youngest of the Steel Rats. Toshi is a child genius with an aptitude for engineering. My guess is that he's the son of a scientist that came to Coastal from Japan to work on some mysterious project with Alexander Warren. Yet I do not know how or when he joined the gang, nor do I know the reason why. A teenage rebellion against an overworked father? Maybe.
The first question of every newcomer in Coastal City is, no doubt, this one. What's with all those pipes? Well, have no fear, dear tourist. There is an explanation for their existence. If you see an odd set of pipes, one that loops or turns unexpectedly, it's most probably a part of the Municipal Pneumatic Delivery System, or MPDS in short. Designed by Mr. Warren, MPDS allows for fast deliveries of documents and other small items between the most important city buildings. A message travels inside the pipe, in a tube, moved by the force of rushing air. MPDS was a huge success, despite the occasional vandalism attempts.
Rumor has it that Lisa is one of the best street racers in the state. She's also known for building custom bikes for herself and many others. How her father feels about this is an open question. Mr. Cavallo is a police officer, a good one, from what I gathered. They immigrated to the USA from Brazil when Lisa was just a baby, and since then, like so many people from the world, they have been warmly welcomed.
In 1932, the first dirigible connection from Coastal City, Michigan to Washington, D.C. was established. Dozens of new ones were introduced in the following years. It was Alexander Warren's ingenious automated station system set up on city rooftops that allowed for this peculiar way of transport to work so well in Coastal City. Today, no one is shocked anymore when someone says, "I'm going to visit my daughter in New York," and enters the nearest skyscraper to take an elevator to the roof. Thank you, Mr. Warren. Coastal City, established back in 1712, is the premier city in the great state of Michigan. Located on the southern bank of Saginaw Bay, it was always considered a major industrial power in the United States. But only when a famous eccentric urban engineer, Alexander Warren, became its mayor, did the city really start to shine. Divided into 4 major districts and a dozen smaller ones, Coastal City is home for over 7 million Americans hailing from all over the world.
This is it, the city of the future, the dream of Alexander Warren. Multi-layered, modern city center with controllable traffic, automatic pressure-activated street lamp system, and hundreds of other inventions made flesh. What I love the most are the engine angels that ward Halcyon from the west, just by the Armstrong Bridge. What a sight for the tourists.
When Alexander Warren started to modernize Coastal City, he chose Halcyon Isle, then known simply as the City, to be the heart of his design. Rerouting all industrial transport underground and to the skies, he opened the streets to cars and pedestrians. Multi-layered systems of moving sidewalks, escalators, and even car lifts allowed for effortless movement in this new city center. Nearly nothing was left from the old, unremarkable design of the city. And on the rubble of the past, a shining Halcyon Isle rose to spread its wings.
Are you sure this thing's recording? Yeah, right. So, I'm Randall Kaiser. Kaiser means prince in German, you know? So, that's me. Oh, you want to know about the rats? Okay, see, we're the real deal here. All the streets, tracks, and rooftops belong to us when we ride through the city at night. Yeah, when you wake up in the night because of loud engines roaring outside your flat, that's us. Even if you live on floor 75, nowhere is out of bounds.
Lakeport is a strange district. Lying by the shore of Saginaw Bay, it hosts both the cheap and dirty docks district and the most expensive private properties in Coastal. People pay crazy money to buy a villa with a view of the bay. Warren's restructurization of the city somehow missed Lakeport, and you can still see what the city once was before the technological boom.
A philanthropist, an engineer, a man of honor, and the former mayor of Coastal City, Mr. Alexander Warren was a true visionary. He dreamt about a city of the future, where the very ideas of industry and prosperity were made into reality. A beating heart of a civilization, efficiently designed and implemented into the arteries of an American city. Gathering an impressive gallery of scientists from all over the world, he took upon his shoulders to turn an ugly duckling of a city into the beautiful technological swan that Coastal City is today.
Wasn't my idea. There were always steel rats in Coastal. We're just the latest addition. We don't have a beef with any other bikers. Not that many of our kind here, in the north of the country. It's a good place for outsiders who just want to ride together, with no quarrel with anyone. That's it.
A few years ago, a tragic accident happened just outside of Coastal City. A strange yet unexplained emission of strong electromagnetic waves scrambled the navigational tools of over 36 civilian, military, and cargo airplanes in Michigan airspace, pulling them down to the ground on the eastern outskirts of Coastal City. This strange, tragic accident prompted Mr. Warren to invest in a safer way of aerial transport.
Yes, I like science. Engineering and physics are among my favorite topics. I guess I'm the main technician in the crew, but we all work on the bikes. I'm proud of the wheel saws the most. Such a simple yet elegant, sufficient design allows them to perform incredible stunts. I think that after the invasion, all the bikers will want to have one of those. Huh? Dangerous? Well, yeah, maybe a little bit, but What's the big deal? They're cool. My favorite part of all this is riding on the rooftops. Well, it reminds me of my time in the circus. See, we use the piping systems to get to the top fast. Toshi invented these wheel saws so we can cut into the metal and climb walls. Who would have thought they'd prove so effective against the junk bots? Well, we're lucky to have this kid, really.
Warren's Gate lies in the heart of the coastal Old Town. When Warren moved all industry from Halcyon, he moved most of it here. Only a handful of people, me included, protested when the bulldozers started leveling the oldest buildings in the city. Now all that remains is a few streets and historical elevations, barely seen between factories and foundries.
What do you mean talk about steel rats? My story? What for? No, I don't want to talk about my dad. Thank you. Turn this off. All right. Okay, yeah, all right. I can say this. Steel rats are my home. Steel rats are family. You mess with one of us, you mess with the whole lot, Menina. Now that's the whole story. Turn this goddamn thing off.
When the Junkbot invasion started, Town Hall ordered an unprecedented swift evacuation of the whole city. Using the dirigible stations on roofs, the metro system, and centrally controlled traffic, at least half of the 7 million citizens left in a matter of hours. This proved once and for all how careful and forward-thinking was Mr. Warren's design.
I love racing. I miss the times when there were more bikers in Coastal. It's really hard to be the fastest when there's no one to race besides your amigos. Now, whenever I really want to test myself, I have to visit other towns. Everybody knows that Coastal is the rat's turf and that I'm the queen here. Toshiro's worked miracles with my engine. Can you hear her purr? Oh, come on! I just can't be beaten.
I got this bike from a friend who was a Steel Rats leader before me. What happened to him? He died, of course. And I don't want to talk about it. He was a good man, and he died in an idiotic traffic accident. Got crushed by one of those lifted ramps they use for traffic control. The bike was pretty much busted when I stole it from Fell Yards, where the police dropped it after the accident. And that's the whole story.
I was just a little girl when the planes crashed near the city. I still remember the sound. Mom thought it's the war. Around 40 planes just crashed in an empty meadow, one by one, in a single hour. It's still a mystery what happened there, though the government keeps talking about some commie space technology test. I investigated the topic myself, but it remains unsolved. 20 years ago, the so-called Fell Yards became the dumping spot for all kinds of unused, broken things. Car piles taller than buildings spot the seemingly infinite scrapyards like strange trees. Fell Yards' growth remains unchecked. What's to tell? Born and raised in Coastal, I have a twin sister, but she moved to Washington. I wanted to write when I was younger. Did my studies in New York. There I learned the excitement of a good journalistic investigation and the exhilaration of a printed article. With that, I came back to Coastal to stay. I work at the Coastal Post, and this piece about the night of the Junkbot invasion and the Steel Rats might be my biggest story yet, and could be my gateway to a Pulitzer.
So, the junk bots were all created and controlled by the central hive mind set in the orb I found. And yet, they showed capability of individual behavior as reported by our accounts, which leads to a bold but legitimate conclusion that their behavioral patterns iterated about tenfold during that single night and could gain some extreme complexity level if unchecked for a longer period of time. Aren't you writing this down?
To find the orb, the steel rats went through the incredible underground facility created by the junk bots. They talk about hovering objects, strange physics, lights. Most of it collapsed after they managed to stop the invasion. Scientists and the military are trying to dig there, but it's just junk and dirt now.
There was this huge robot. I think Randall called it Killdozer. I think it's been chasing us through the city. I think that the orb ordered it to follow me. Why else would I meet it for the first time in Old Barrow right after leaving the nest? Hey, it's actually pretty cool that the orb decided I'm important enough to send its strongest creation to get me. Well, I'm glad we got away.